What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Country Bunkers Trains. Hope all is well and you're having a good week. I gotta be honest, I really didn't have a video planned for this week on the channel. I'm just kind of hanging out and putzing around doing some projects here in the train room. I thought we'd check them out together. It's kind of a cold, dreary, and wet day outside, so no better time to escape to the train room than now. I actually wrapped up the first project I was working on, and I gotta give another big shout out and thank you to our man TJ over at TJ's Toy Trains. TJ once again hooked us up with another sale item from the Lionel store up in Carolina. And yeah, I'm real excited about it. Here she is. We got a smoking, screaming good deal on a new Lionel ZWL transformer, and I'm absolutely ecstatic to finally have one. I've been wanting one of these for a number of years. I really wanted one, but honestly, I didn't want to pay the price that they're asking for these. It's a little much, but for the price I was able to grab this piece, yeah, I'm very, very stoked to have it. I actually tried grabbing this when I was there in person a couple months ago at the sale, but we couldn't come to an agreement on price. Well, this languished around in the store. Nobody ended up picking it up. And TJ was able to grab it for me for even less than what I was offering while I was there. How cool is that? And here she is. How cool is that? I mean, this thing is just plain badass. This thing is sick. I love it. Like I say, I've been wanting one for forever. I can't believe we finally got one. I did have to install new wiring between the transformer and the TIU under the table. Being as this one's so big, it barely fits on our little control center here. It has to sit a lot further forward. That way you can see the gauges under the layout. If you push it any more further back, you can't read or see the gauges. So I had to install longer wiring to bring it up towards the front of the command center, control center, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, it's squeezed right in there and it's looking good. We cleaned up our little display center here, or control center, quite nicely. We used to have, I'm sure as you know, 2 ZW post-war transformers here. So yeah, we've gained quite a bit of room here on the shelf. It's real nice. This thing has a bunch of fancy tech built into it, and honestly, I'll never use it. This will be used as a pretty basic transformer, just like the other ZW post-war transformers we had here previously. But regardless, it is really nice to have. Obviously now, we have voltmeter and ammeter gauges that we can read on the tracks, which will come in super, super handy if we're ever trying to diagnose a sick engine here on the track work and whatnot. Another nice thing, obviously, although it's huge, it is somewhat compact compared to the other transformers. You know, we could have theoretically controlled this whole layout off of one ZW, but I wouldn't have felt comfortable doing so. I mean, hell, those are 70, 80-year-old transformers. They really weren't intended to operate 4 independent trains. The 2 outer handles were meant for trains, and I think the inners, yeah, you might be able to put a 3rd loop on there, but those I think were more aimed at accessories and stuff like that, things that didn't draw that much power. I just wasn't comfortable hooking up all these tracks to one post-war ZW. This one, though, we're not even putting this thing through any kind of sweat or stress at all. This thing's laughing at our 4 loops at the moment that we have running off of it. I do have one tiny little gripe with this transformer, and I've seen a number of folks online on the forums and whatnot have this same gripe. This one came from the last run or last batch that was shipped over July of last year, 2022. My gripe with it is the handles on the outside, they got a little play to them. I don't know if you can see that. See how there's some play there? I mean, actually, that's a good little bit of play. Yeah, that's not very comforting. I mean, the handles, they still operate nice and smooth, and they feel good. It's just the whole handle assembly on the outsides. They just have a good bit of play to them, but really, that's my only gripe. Honestly, if I'd have bought this at full MSRP or normal pricing, yeah, I'd be quite a bit more upset, but for the price I paid for this, it really doesn't bug me. Just something I thought I'd point out and share. Just for a quick comparison, here's our old post-war ZWs, and you can see how nice and tight these are. I mean, hell, you can lift the whole thing, and this thing doesn't even budge. This one has a little tiny bit of play. Not near as much as the new one. But I mean, hell, again, this is 70, 80 years old. I'd expect it out of that, not so much out of a brand new transformer. But anyway, let's move on to our next project for the day. As you can see, we got an old friend down off of the shelves. Our post-war Lionel 2367 Wabash F3. I'm extremely proud of this engine. This is the first engine I did a first full-blown restoration on. This thing was an absolute mess when I got it. At the time when I picked this up several years ago, I got it in a lot. It came in a big plastic tote, bare, strung about with all the track, other cars, accessories. And I found it literally in the middle of a horse barn. It was the previous owner's father's train who hadn't played with them in God knows how long. I mean, this thing had sat neglected for forever. Looked like it went through 3 or 4 different floods. It was just an absolute mess. I'll try and post a picture here on the video to show just how bad it was. But yeah, I got this engine and I completely blew it all apart. Did a bunch, and I mean a bunch of work on it. Obviously, I repainted it. I picked up an airbrush kit to do it at the time. I picked up paints from Royz Trains to reshoot it in. It's got all new detail pieces, you know, new ladders, windshield and glass inserts, stuff like that, headlight. Anything that could be removed off of this engine and replaced was replaced. The horns, battery cover, so on and so forth. Now, although it's had a complete restoration or beautification, if you want to call it that, it still retains all of its original mechanical hardware or electrical hardware, however you want to classify it. It still has the original E-unit it came with under the shell. All the electronics, the horn, everything is all original. I think all I ever did was clean it up the best that I could and got it working. And it really is a testament to what workhorses these old post-war engines are. I mean, you can't kill these damn things. They just keep going and going and going. This thing even still has its original rollers on the bottom, and that's one of the things we're going to address today. These roller assemblies are really, really nasty. In fact, one of them got so bad it broke. I think it's this back one. And rather than trying to just replace the roller itself, I said screw it. We got a whole new roller assemblies here that we're going to install on it and try and get it fixed up and running once again. It really deserves it, and it's worthy of getting it. On top of replacing the rollers, we're also going to make this a bit of a resto mod. Probably going to anger some people once again. But we're going to be installing some command control into this engine and get rid of the original E-unit with this ERR AC Commander. Now, we've done this before. This actually came out of the engine that we installed it in. That old post-war 2354 New York Central, I believe it was. I'll post a link to that video in the description below as well. But yeah, this was what this ERR board was originally installed in. Man, I tell you, I really pissed some people off doing that. I had all kinds of angry goobers hitting me up. You'd have thought I went up and slapped their mom. Oh, how dare you install command control into a post-war engine? You're a monster. You're a savage. I hate you. I really did find it very, very humorous. But guys, as I said in that video, it's all completely reversible. None of this is permanent. It's all temporary, if you will. As you can see, this came right back out of that engine just as it went in, and that E-unit went right back into place. I ended up selling that engine. I offered it with the ERR board, but the new owner did not have any interest in having it. He's a post-war aficionado, and that really was a nice engine. He got a great, great piece. But he had no interest in command control or having that board. He was hell-bent on having the original E-unit. So out came the board. The old original E-unit went right back into place. He was as happy as all get out, and I was happy to sell him the engine. So rather than letting this thing sit around and not get used, and this engine sit around, not get used, well, let's marry them together and put them both to use once again. Now, I haven't been inside this engine in years. I don't remember what's in here or what we're going to find. I got the front screw out, though. Let's pop this shell off and see what we got. There we go. Oh, yeah, not too bad. Obviously, I had to install my own harness, replace the original three-wired ribbon cable, but that's pretty much standard on anything I mess with post-war-wise. All my post-war engines, man, they're all pretty junky when I get them. They've been well loved. I'll leave it at that. But yeah, it looks pretty good, actually. Obviously, I'm having flashbacks now. I had to polish up this old battery mount, so that still looks somewhat good. I did have to go through these motors quite heavily at the time, but they still look pretty decent. You can see some of my old goober soldering jobs back when I was learning how to solder. Oh, one did let go on the front motor, so we'll have to get that all fixed up. But yeah, let me go ahead. I got to get all this unsoldered, and we'll get all the old stuff out of here, and we'll start putting in the new stuff. Real quick, just for a quick visual demonstration and to make sure everything's going to fit, it looks like we're going to be perfect. All of this stuff here in the middle is coming out. I'm not going to be trying to reutilize the horn or anything like that. The horn doesn't work right now at the moment anyway. But yeah, this is going to fit right into place and seems like we'll have no issues. That is nice to know. The engine that this was originally installed in, that AA New York Central post-war unit, if I recall correctly, this was obviously installed in the main powered unit, the front engine, but that set had the horn in the dummy A behind it that trailed it. This one obviously has everything all packed in together here into this one unit, this one shell. I don't know, you guys tell me. I'm not really the electronics aficionado or know much about these boards. It would be cool, like I've said previously, if we could power the original horn off of this. I don't know if you can install a resistor or capacitor and try to operate that. There's no soundboard on this. Or hell, maybe in the future we could add a soundboard, add sounds to this unit. What do you guys think? All right, guys, so we got all the old stuff dug out of there, and right now, once again, I'm just playing with this board. Here's how this is going to look sitting in here. Pretty easy and straightforward. I made this little supporting bracket out of some real thin, I want to say it's like 28 gauge galvanized I picked up at the local Home Depot, obviously a long time ago. You can see I did wrap a good chunk of it in some electrical tape. That way, in case if it ever did fold down or anything, we're not touching any of the contact pins or parts of the board. I just didn't want to short anything out. And then I've got one screw, just like on a factory original E-unit, that sits in place where the E-unit used to go, and it just hangs out right there. Pretty nifty. Next up, I gotta dig out these old pickup rollers and wiring, and we'll get those swapped out. Right now, you can see I'm trying to clean out all this nasty old solder. I think there was 10 pounds of solder in this engine. But we'll get it cleaned up and move on. Getting our new pickup rollers installed. Went ahead and got some new wires soldered onto the pickups themselves. One thing I did notice, you want to make sure you grab your old plastic washer. Luckily, these were sticking to the old pickup assemblies. If you don't, and you go to screw this assembly into the truck, it's just going to short out on itself. We don't want that, obviously. But yeah, these look a whole hell of a lot better, don't they? We can finally get rid of this old garbage. We got some nice new solid connections for our ERR board. That's really nice. For extra insurance, I got our voltmeter out, just testing to make sure. You see, we got a nice solid connection here on the pickup roller itself. But more importantly, making sure we don't have connection anywhere else on the truck or anything like that. That way we don't have any shorts. Looks like we're in business. Back on the top side, what I'm doing, I'm taking our two hot wires as well as our headlight wire and joining them together into this little connector. I've got a box of these cheap spade and female connectors that I picked up off Amazon. I've had that for a while. But I'm joining them together into this one female connector, and there's a couple reasons for that. On the new or newish board for this engine that we're installing into it, we got to use these little ports down here for the new wiring. Obviously, this wire I have installed is just too big to try and be sandwiched into these little ports. So I got to downsize the wire. We'll do that on the other side of the male terminal that'll plug into this. So we can downsize the wire for the ERR board. But another reason is, in the future, again, as I say, this is temporary. If I ever want to reinstall the E-unit, when we put it back in place, all these wires meet up right here. This is where they used to be soldered together at on the E-unit. So if we ever want to swap the E-unit back over, all we got to do is pull the wires out of that connector and we can solder them right back to the E-unit. It's that simple. I think that makes a lot of sense. And like I say, I am tying the headlight once again right back straight into the hot side once more. I could, if I really wanted to, plug it into the headlight control port on this board, but I'm not going to go that far into it. We'll just keep it fed off of track power. That's what I did on the last one. It still gives this engine that post-war type of feel. The headlight will always be on when the track is live, but I kind of like it that way. But again, who knows, in the future, if we come back and decide to get a little more crazy with this engine, maybe install sounds, we could do some custom lighting, maybe try and install some marker lights. We'll see. Making some progress. As you can see, got things kind of test fit in here. Everything's looking pretty good. You can kind of see what I'm talking about with this downsized wire. We got it going into our terminal, or hot terminal on the board here. And then it just plugs in right here. Once we get everything finalized and complete, I'll put some electrical tape around this connector to protect it and not let it short out. I also have to add a ground in here. I don't know how well you guys can see. I'm just got one of these little eyelets. I'm going to use this. This was the originally for the horn relay. They needed to be isolated from the frame for ground, but I'm just going to reutilize that screw and take off some of the paint here. That should make a pretty good ground, I think, for this system. Also got our new motor wiring being installed. I actually have, finally, some nice 3-wired ribbon cable. I picked some of this up to rewire a couple of our switch controls on our reel tracks. It's real nice having this stuff handy. Obviously, it'll work perfect here. Here's this stuff here. I picked this up a while back off of Amazon. Just some cheap Chinese wire. But it'll do the job. Low voltage wire, 12 volt to 330 volts. So I think we'll be all right. It looks about the same as what was originally installed in a post-war engine. Maybe a tiny bit smaller, but not by much. I got ahead of myself. It's done. It's complete and ready to go. One of the last things I wanted to mention, or make sure to mention where I left off last, is along with these kits, you do get these little capacitors that you have to make sure to wire in on the motor along with the wiring. Don't ask me why. It's more of that voodoo magic electrical stuff. I'm, again, not really my forte, but it is very important that you do get these installed. It's also important to note, after talking with the supplier that I got this kit from a long while back, some of these post-war motors need bigger capacitors. When I bought this kit, I did buy the bigger capacitors just in case, but luckily these stock ones seem to be working just fine with the F3s that I've installed this in. So we're good to go there, but it is something important to note. I was bashing my head against the wall for the last hour or so. Obviously, I got it all back together, and I went to go test it out, but the thing wasn't working. It was driving me nuts. Originally, this board was programmed as engine number 3 in the last engine that it was in, so I was trying to command it as engine 3, but it wasn't responding to anything that I did. I bashed my head, like I say, for an hour, ran over all my wiring, went through everything, nothing was sticking out. Seems somehow or another, after being removed from that other engine and being installed in here, it's like the board got scrambled or something. Once I reset the board to engine number 1, now it's working flawlessly. Yeah, so I don't know. I'll take it. Hey, it's working. It just drove me nuts for a little bit. But yeah, she's ready to go. We'll plop around the layout and see what she can do. One thing I noticed once I did get it running, I made a rookie mistake. I got the field wires and everything on the motors wired up backwards. Rather than redoing all the soldering and wires up here, I just swapped the wires down here at the board. Much easier. Another thing to point out real quick is the antenna. You can see the antenna has a little plug right here. I've got the antenna just electrically taped to the top of the shell, and that's all I'm going to do. It'll hang out. The shell's plastic. It's not going to interfere, anything like that. But the nice thing is, whenever we need to service or work on this engine, if ever needed, the antenna plugs into this little prong right here. So yeah, we just got to plug that up, and you got the antenna, or like I say, when you got to work on it, comes off real easy, nice and simple. All right, obviously I don't have the antenna plugged in, but I think it'll work fine for just this quick little test. But obviously we got track power. You can see our lights on. I've got it pulled up in the remote just as engine number 1. Let's see if it'll move out. Oh yeah, there we go. Very nice. How cool is that? Let's see if we can program this thing. For the run program switch, I'm just going to stuff this down into the belly of the engine once we get the number programmed. Honestly, I'll never need to use this again on this particular engine, but let's turn off track power, flip it to program, and let's see here. Let's try and address it once again as engine 3. It says set. Cut the power. Back to run. All right, fingers crossed. And it's not working. Of course. All right, you guys tell me. You Lionel aficionados, what am I doing wrong? It does not like engine number 3. Or any other number I program it as. Is that something wrong with the board? I don't know. I'm fine with running it in engine 1 because everything else is assigned something else. But yeah, kind of goofy. I don't know. You know, I kind of have a sneaky suspicion that this board isn't long for this world. I don't know, it just seems to be acting a little clunkier or goofier than what I remember it. Granted, it's been a while since it's been used, but I don't know, it just doesn't seem as smooth, and especially with the way it's acting, trying to program a new number. I don't know. We'll definitely run it while we can. It's not gonna, if we're gonna kill it, we're gonna kill it. I really don't care, to be honest. And hey, if we do kill it, we're all set up to throw that E-unit right back in place and take it back to factory. Regardless, I had fun today. Hey, we got to spend the day in the train room. That's always a great time, isn't it? I hope you guys had fun with me too. Sorry it didn't turn out quite as I was hoping, but hey, like I say, it was a good time finding out what we got. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It would be much appreciated. We do have a lot of cool stuff coming up here in the works. Keep an eye out for some future videos. But anyways, guys, as always, my name is Zach, and this is Country Bunkers Trains. Y'all take care. I'll see you the next go-round.